Everybody, how's it going? So my name is Bud, work in Michigan from the state up north. And so I know. My sister-in-law is from Ohio, and she always says, you know, I'm not a big Ohio State fan personally myself, but I don't like Michigan either. And she always reminds me that I chose to move to Ohio. She was born there and didn't have a choice. So we're going to go through some stuff today. Main company that I run is a family company, been around for 80 years, Atlas Sales. And we are in the beer distribution business. That's a core of what we do. So we're going to talk about beer for a little bit today too. The other three things I'm involved with, my wife and I run together, is Dunn Beverage International, which is a wine importing company. Awkward Onesies, I'll let you guys look that up on your own. And that's really a passive kind of online retailer that we're playing with. We came up with the idea, drinking, and the night before Thanksgiving, and it was built before Christmas Eve. So, and then 11 Web. Sarah launched 11 Web between Christmas and New Year's last year as a web development company. She saw a need for web development and the ability to transfer the ownership of a company's website back to them and the management. There are a lot of developers that will develop great websites, and then when you need an update, you got to go back and pay them more money. Her sites are all built with a content management system so that when she delivers you your website, you know how to and understand how to make an update to it. And that's a cost-effective way for a new company to run their website. Even for a company like ours that's been around for 80 years, it's a cost-effective way to do it. Because nobody wants to go back and spend another $2,000 and another $3,000 after you already put $10,000 into a website. So in Atlas Sales, we're in a highly regulated industry. Anybody remember Prohibition and learning about it in history class at all? The failed experiment, they call it. So John Rockefeller put together a book called about how to understand how to manage alcohol, and he came up with a 3-tier system. So that's what we still live in today. The way that this country delivers alcohol to the consumer is unlike any other country in the world. So highly regulated from the federal and then also down to the state level. So the first tier is the brewers and the winemakers or the distilleries, the people that make the product. So the Anheuser-Busch of the world, Miller Coors, Diageo, which is a big spirits company, and then Gallo or Constellation, which are the 2 biggest wine companies. So we buy products from companies like those, warehouse them, buy them by the pallet, and then take those pallets apart and deliver them to customers like Walmart and Buffalo Wild Wings on a case-by-case basis. And it works well like that because during pre-prohibition, it used to be like a lock, stock, and barrel. Anybody heard that before? So the brewers own the lock, they own the stock in the store, and they own the barrel that the beer came from. So they owned everything. No such thing as a free lunch. That was another bar term pre-prohibition. And the brewers that own the bars used to salt the lunch up so that you would need to drink more. And it also worked really well because beer has no salt profile to it. So when you drink beer, you want to eat something salty to balance your palate back out. So when I came on full-time in 2009, we had a very stagnant business. We didn't have the portfolio that we needed. From a case size, we were declining in volume, and we were becoming irrelevant from a case size in our retail level. Craft was growing, wine was gaining share from beer, and spirits was growing at a rapid rate, mostly due to people that are our age. In our generation, they like to drink spirits a lot more than they do beer or wine. And what we needed to do something different to make sure we could continue to grow. So we took a portfolio like this and turned it into that. We deal with more suppliers now than we've ever dealt with before. When my dad started in the business in like the 70s, we had Busch Light, or Busch, Natural, Bud, and Bud Light. And now on any given day, we've got quadruple that going out to any account and any pallet. And what this has done for us is it has created us a profit gap. So what we've done is we've grown sales of these new higher end products that have bigger margins, and we've declined costs along with it. So we've widened our profit gap is what I'm calling it. I don't know if it's a term I learned somewhere or one that I've come up with. But because we've done that, we've able to turn not only the sales side around the business, but also the financial piece of the business. And a lot of companies, especially small ones like ours, through the 90s, in my opinion, they would grow just because they could grow. Things were going well, people were getting, getting jobs. Well, I mean, the unemployment rate was extremely low. So if you had a product or service that was decent, it could sell. Now, that's not always the same. So companies like ours had to take better focus on managing the financial side of our business and declining our costs and making sure they were under control while also growing sales. And you can't cost cut yourself into prosperity. And it's really frustrating to me when I see big banks or any other big company, Procter & Gamble has done it too, where they lay off 5, 10, 15, 20,000 people. I don't understand how you can be a company of that size and lay off a town in one day and still do the same amount of business that you did on Friday, on Monday, without 15,000 people. I don't understand how that works. So we want to continue to manage our costs every single day, and we invite our employees to help us do that. So we put together bonus pools with cost management expectations, and then we give them ideas of simple things that they can do every day in their position to help us manage costs, and then they get a bonus if we meet the overall company goals. So that brings us into more like a career stuff, and we can talk about more things as we go, directly related to marketing or any of the classes that you guys are in now. The good old days are behind us. Has anybody ever tried to drive a car forward looking in a rearview mirror? Anybody tried to do that? It's really hard. But a lot of people that are older than us try to live life like that right now. They want to go back to the old days. They want to go back to where raises just happen because they happen. They want to go back to where expectations were lower or your objectives were easier to meet. And that isn't going to happen. The great thing for you guys and for me, we don't remember that. That wasn't ever anything that we lived through. So we can come to the game with a different mindset. And you guys have been prepared educationally better than any other generation has been, but your mindset some of your mindset is still stuck in the past. And we got to make sure we're moving you forward so you can beat people in the workplace. So that brings me to, we're stuck between two worlds. We're stuck between a world pre-2008 that we know is dead, and we're also moving towards one that was struggling to be born. But we don't know what that's going to look like. We have no idea what the job market is going to look like. We have no idea, are we going to have more freelance people in the market than we've ever had before? That's what Europe does. Many, many freelance workers in Europe that aren't full-time people. Are we going to continue to have high unemployment? Are we going to have rising taxes? Those are all things that we need to understand of how that's going to move forward. So today, you guys are all still in college. Some of you are getting ready to graduate in a few months. Do we have any freshmen in here? Any sophomores? We got a couple of sophomores and freshmen, so some of you are still a few years away. So I ask you, what are you doing now to prepare yourself for when you graduate? Are you going out drinking every night, supporting somebody like me, although I like that, and I appreciate it, and it helped me get through college financially? Is that what's right all the time? Are you studying all the time? Is that a good idea to just study all the time either? Can you have a balance between both? Somebody really smart, I think it was one of my advisors, said it's a really good idea to think about college like a job. Wake up in the morning, work until 5, and get everything you need done related to college, and then go have fun at night and go do what I do now every day, which is entertain myself for the rest of the evening. So that kind of attitude is a good thing to think about when you guys are preparing or working through your next through college years. So goal tracking. Everybody knows about goals, right? We all know how to make a goal. We all know we should write it down. So a lot of problems with goals is that nobody tracks it. Once you write it down, you don't hold yourself accountable. And you either don't hold yourself accountable because you're afraid of success or you're afraid of failure. You don't hold yourself accountable because you lose it. You don't hold yourself accountable. Anybody else done goal planning lately? Is there a reason why you guys haven't tracked it or followed it? Have you got an idea? So what we try to do every year with Sarah and mine, this is more personal stuff, is we write them down in December, and then we track them between one another. And then we make updates and make sure that we're following through on what we said we would do. And it's been really beneficial for us, and it's a hybrid between personal goals, professional goals, and financial goals, because all three things are important for your overall career and success. So as you guys are getting ready to leave or getting ready to prepare, Anybody had a job before? Raise your hand if you had a job. Did you guys like your job? No? Number one problem with a job is that when are you going to clock out? When am I going to leave? When am I going to be done? And it's short-term success. Anybody had a career yet or feel like they've got a career? A business they may have started already? Not yet? Well, this is a cool little chart about job. Can't wait to get off work, short-term success. Career, I wish I had more time. I wish I could do more. Go home at night thinking about work. Wake up in the morning, pick up your iPhone, and start answering emails right away. Those are the kind of experiences you feel differently from a job and a career. And I enjoy my career. So next kind of step is you got to pick out, are you going to have a job first? You're going to try to work towards a career. So you've got your job search that you're going to go through. Do interviews. Don't be afraid to take any interview you want to take. It's all training practice. We've all been through interviews, I think. Raise your hand. So we've all been through it. It's a nerve-wracking process. We put our interviewees through a gauntlet of 19 questions, and that's just round one, not round 2 and 3. We bring them back in for round 3, and my dad drills them for an hour and a half. And he's been through a lot of interviews, so he usually will tell them, we've got a concern about this person and them being able to manage this. So he will just pick out that one little problem and keep poking them with questions until we feel either comfortable that, hey, we think that now weakness is not as much of a weakness or is actually maybe a strength, or that's a giant hole that we can't fill as a management team and training, and we're not going to hire that person. Your experience is going to be important. It's really tough to gain experience if you don't get a job or don't start building a career. So you're going to have to also work on gaining experience. You got two internships that you can do right here. Great things to do.
We make it mandatory for them.
It's mandatory now?
Well, yeah,
Perfect.
But we have had 0 applicants for the one position and 2 applicants for the other one, and it's been out there for 4 weeks.
Wow. That's disappointing.
Yeah, it really is, and they're both paid stipends. So, and I know everyone's busy, but those are the type of experiences that you're talking
Yep.
about that are really are gonna, because that old adage goes, I need a job to get experience, and I need
That's what it is,
to
yep.
get a job.
Yep.
So kind
Yep.
of a tough one.
And you are going to be stuck between a double-edged sword. So to get somebody to take a chance on you through a local internship around town at school, why not take that opportunity? Why not jump on it? It's disappointing to hear that there's not more people, and I get to say that because I get to leave. Maybe the professors don't want to piss anybody off, but I get to say it's disappointing. So, and you guys should do better than that. Personal development plan. A lot of people have these at big corporations with their big CEOs. There's no reason that you guys can't have them either. We have one with our wine brand manager. She wants to be, I think it's 3 levels, wine sommelier. So we help her go through her books. We purchase her books for her. We put her through tests. And she takes it at her own pace, but we're always there as a management team to help support her so she can reach her personal goal. Because we know if she's happy in her personal life and with what she's doing personally, then she's going to be better with her career too. So have those things in place. If you want to go learn how to play a new sport, you can work on that. If you want to go take classes so you can understand accounting better. Accounting is a very tough subject to understand. You may want to spend some time with an accountant so you can learn more. I do that. I'm doing that personally right now. I don't understand accounting well enough, so I'm trying to bridge the gap between my finance knowledge and my accounting knowledge so I can make them work together. Networking, going to the networking events is great. I'm not an expert on this, but just going and jumping in head first is a great way to start. Start to meet people when you get out in the job market and get out and start building your career wherever it will be, and go to the Young Professionals Club stuff. There are a bunch of stuff around, even not just young professionals, just meetings around the community about how to get involved, how to understand what the community needs. Those are very important things to do. And then we're in a global market. You guys are not only are companies like mine and Anheuser-Busch, Procter & Gamble, Mitchell & Tires, these guys are competing in the global marketplace for business. You guys are competing in the global marketplace for jobs. There are companies that can go to Mexico and hire 4 engineers for the cost of an American engineer. There are companies that can go to Japan or go to Indonesia and hire more people there to do a customer resource management job just because they can. So there's nothing wrong with thinking about going abroad or moving abroad. I've got a few friends that have moved abroad and have come back home. I had a friend who worked in India actually breaking down game tape for high school football teams. And that was what their company was. And they actually decided, the companies decided that they didn't like working in India as much as they could, and they couldn't get as much done in the U.S. So they moved everything back to the U.S. over keeping it in India. So think about that. So once you get your job, your first 90 days are your most important. You're going to jump in head first. Make sure that you're going to make a difference. You guys have ideas. If there's a lot of people that have been in these positions older than us, and they don't understand the technology that we have. We just moved ourselves to Gmail, and I personally love that system. It's made our company more productive right from the start, and is going to continue to be a better resource. But it's because of the guys that are my age at our company that understand how to use that need to share it and show it and talk to the other team members that may not be as technology savvy. So ask your boss, hey, why are we doing it like this? If there's a reason, then there may be a real legitimate reason, and maybe you can morph your idea that you have differently, or maybe your idea you've got is already better than what you're doing, and you can tell them about it and make an impact right away. Taking ownership is very important too. When you look at an employee or a team member, and anybody who's got a sense of ownership or a true ownership always performs differently than somebody who's out to just meet their own expectations or just meet their own goals. So if you're managing people, if you can find a way to develop ownership or an ownership mentality, you're going to be more successful in the long term. I love companies like New Belgium Brewing that have complete employee ownership. It works really well. Everybody understands the financial game. Everybody understands the accounting game. It's very difficult to do, but that's what we do at Atlas too. It's not employee ownership, but there are ownership expectations, and there's shared ownership and performance. So when the owner's basically bottom line performs and we make a return on investment, we have metrics that we track as a performance for bonus that directly relate to that. So that's how we can work with our team to gain and grow ownership. This one we can spend a lot of time on is managing your financial expectations. You guys are all a cheaper cost. That's just no way around it. You're cheaper to purchase than somebody who's got a lot of experience, and you can bring in you can raise a company's bottom line right away. So when you guys are getting jobs, they're probably going to look at getting jobs that are at less wage than what you may want to. But there's one thing you want to really think about is, do you want to take a job now for the money that doesn't have a future career prospect, or is it better to take a career position that you can learn a skill and learn tools so you can move to the next job? I know a guy from DC who actually introduced me to that concept. He's a political advisor, and it was his concept from his mentor was, take a position that's going to teach you the tools you need for your next job and know that the money will be coming to you later. He's 30 years old and runs a branch in DC for one of the biggest online marketing companies for political advisement. So they run online ad campaigns for senators, congressmen, and then any local person that they get to work for them too. They haven't done a presidential race yet, but I'm sure they will someday. And before the age of like 27, he worked in the leading role as political advisor for every kind of race in America's political sector except a state senate and a presidential race. So he's handled everything else at the ripe age of 27. And then the last thing is really important is understand your total cost as a company. I believe that if every employee can at least generate a profit for their cost, and that is your wage, that is your health care, your cell phone, if you get a cell phone, your company car, if you get a company car, any other fringe benefits you may get. If every employee at a company at least is a positive dollar, some are going to be higher. The sales guys are going to bring in, the sales team's going to bring in more dollars than they take out. The office staff may be a negative, but they still need to be there to support the sales guys. If everybody can bring in more money some way, shape, or form than they took out, it's almost impossible for the company to lose money. So understand what your full cost is and understand what your full wage is. That might be a good thing for you guys to feel good that, if you're not making as much money as you want, but you're still making health care, especially if you're married. Health care for married is like $10,000 to $12,000 a year if your company's paying for it. That's a big expense, and you guys need to be thinking about that. That's a worth to you, and that's a portion of what you're being paid, even though you're not seeing those dollars. So next thing is career and wealth. So as you guys go through your career, you want to talk about building wealth too. Anybody know the people, the Joneses? Keeping up with the Joneses? The Joneses are broke. They don't have any money. So they just have a lot of things. And you want to think about, this is a big graph and goes through, you know, income, investing, your mindset, basics, and then obstacles you have to get through. And it's a very complex graph, but it really lays out the way wealth creation is happening. You know, Shaq is rich. The guy who signed Shaq's checks is wealthy. So that's kind of what I kind of want. That's what I want to work towards personally. And wealth to me is not, you know, a huge bank account or, you know, hundreds of or $1 billion. It's also about freedom too, the ability to do what I want to when I want to. Nobody's going to tell me that I can't come to Tiffin and speak today. Nobody's going to tell me that I can't take a sick day because I feel like crap, or that I have to show up to do somebody else's job because they can't do it. As an owner of a company, you have to do those things sometimes. And my parents are actually back home dealing with an employee who we let go for personal reasons in his personal life, and he's appealing his unemployment today, and they have to go in front of a magistrate. So those are things that I'm worried about too. So I got a lot of stuff going on in my mind, but I enjoy that. So if you want to go down this path of creating, you know, wealth, these are things you got to think about and how you're going to do that. So we talked a lot about you know, getting a job, getting a career. Another thing that I wanted to touch on today is entrepreneurship. There's always an ability for you to make money as an entrepreneur. And anybody who is going to graduate soon and is going to go out and start searching for a job, if you don't start to get a job, you know, within 3 months or 6 months, start thinking about starting your own thing. There's nothing wrong with thinking about it or having some plans or laying some foundation. Do some, even if it's just doing research, you know, thinking about what do I enjoy doing? You know, for Sarah, it was building websites now. She enjoys doing that. She has a passion for it. So she started doing some research. Well, what does the market need? How much for what would I charge? How much is the price point? And then also, how am I going to make this a big thing? How am I going to make this more than just me exchanging dollars for my time? So after the end of all that research, she decided to start it. And she found this graph of how never to give up. And it's, you know, say you're 30 now, you got 60 years, say it takes 3 months to do a big project, that's 240 shots at success, or 240 different things you can do. Sometimes entrepreneurship is about beating your head up against the wall over and over and over and over again until it hurts, and then you still go back and beat your head up against the wall again. It's also a lot of ups and downs. Just in January, you know, Sarah hadn't booked anything for 30 days. And all the way from June of 2012 through December, she had, you know, little projects going here and there and was just getting to understand how she wanted to operate her business. And when she opened it for real, it was like dead. Nothing was going on. And we were both getting scared. She booked her whole year already now. So within the last 60 days, you know, we had a first 30-day dry spout. In the last 60 days, she's booked her whole budget of what we thought she'd do for the year. So it takes time, it takes effort, it takes some commitment, making sure you don't give up. You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have, you know, a lot of feast and fathom along the way. And that's where that personal finance management comes into play too, making sure you're setting aside money so that you can protect yourself from those slow periods. You know, making sure you got that emergency fund. People talk about it on CNN all the time. Nobody does it, but you should do it. You should have that. That should be one of your guys' first goals, is how much money do I want to set aside in a money market so that I can protect myself if I get laid off, if my business doesn't work out, or if you got a friend who comes over to you and says, hey, I'm thinking about starting this, you know, would you like to be a partner? Would you like to do this with me? You got some cash hanging around. Pay attention to big companies today. You know, how many billions of dollars does Apple have just sitting in a bank account? They have many, many billions of dollars just hanging around. Google, same way. There's no reason why you don't want to take a look at that and try to figure out how to develop that plan personally too. Because they're hanging on those dollars because they know that something good is going to be coming and they want to have that money to invest. And there's no reason why you guys don't want to think about that personally too. I do. that's what we do. You know, we set aside money for personal gains of, you know, investing in a 401k and a Roth IRA, but also for that business that might come along, for that opportunity that we might want to take advantage of. And one of them actually happened this year. We're not going to make a ton of money on it, but Sarah is very concerned about food safety. She thinks that's a big problem for the country. And we had a local farmer that she knows from high school that had been building his farm up over the last few years and was looking for $100,000 of money, and they called it slow money. So you don't get a lot of return on investment, but you do something good for the community, and you do get a little bit of return, and we felt like it was low risk, so we put in a portion of the $100,000 to be a little, one of their partners that's going to help them build these hoop houses, and they can grow greens, and it's called Green Gardens Farms, and they can grow anything they want to for almost 12 months. They have like a 1.5 month period that they're down where the ground just gets too cold. But they're at farm markets well into November. And they're already done with their first farm market. So they grow things most of the year. And that's something that, because we took advantage of having our plan and having our financial plan, we could take advantage of that we couldn't have if we didn't take the steps that I'm talking to you guys about today. So that's kind of what I had planned for today. So we got lots of time, I think, to go through questions and yeah, answer as many things as you want to about how to get an A in Kelly's class, or how to make sure you don't trip at graduation, or anything else. I couldn't have answered everything you guys have. Anybody thinking about starting their own company? Got a couple people. What are you going to start?
Well, me and my brother thinking about like pretty much what you were saying about the greenhouse.
Yeah.
But it's still going inside. It's going to go up.
Okay.
So it's pretty much, I don't know, he has a book plan that he was talking about, like a blue book. But he's still kind of like, my brother is very architectural, he's an introvert, so he likes staying at home, doing all this stuff. So he's kind of building this model thing that I've seen. It's pretty cool. And I don't know, we're still thinking about it.
That's really cool.
So, I mean, he lives in Florida,
Okay.
so it's not a lot of space over there either.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, here you have all the space, you can go wider. So over there, he's trying to do it for, but he could go.
There was just an article that we read on urban farming. You should search Google for it.
I think he read that.
Did he? Okay, it was only a few weeks ago that I saw it.
Oh, a few weeks ago. Oh, no, he talked about this because he looked at it, I think it was last month. He showed me when I went back to school.
It may be the same article. I just saw it only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it could be. It's about a greenhouse and how they were growing everything in just one house and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like that too. But he wants to do that in Peru because we're from Peru too.
From Peru? That's awesome.
Peru is a very poor country, but their soil is very rich.
Yep.
So it's, there's a lot of options. But we're just still looking the best way possible to not kind of fully go in, die out. You know, we don't want to do that. Like, we don't want to just fail on that.
Have money to trade for tomorrow.
Yeah, so we want to do it slow and take everything slow.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to be coming up for another few years, probably.
That's okay to plan for it too. Just have the plans and be willing to risk what you're willing to lose.
Right.
And sometimes that's not everybody. I've heard people say that they believe that entrepreneurs should go broke before they're 30. That's just a process that you should go through a bankruptcy. It's a growing process. I don't necessarily know if I believe in that personally, but it can happen. And just because it happens doesn't mean that you should stop either. So good luck. I saw somebody else shaking their head yes, and I'm thinking about starting something. Anybody else brave enough?
Does your company have internships?
We want to do internships, but I take internships personally very seriously because I don't want to just give you guys busy work. We have a lot of summer jobs, and we're trying to develop a plan to do an internship, trying to develop some things that we want to get done that we would like an extra hand. But I want it to be a process that when you leave, that you feel like you've actually learned something, and you haven't just done a job. Like we have a can crusher. So in Michigan, we get all our cans back. We send hundreds of thousands of cans out in the market, and our team picks them back up, brings them back to the warehouse, and then we crush them. We did like 1.5 million pounds of aluminum last year that we crushed. And I used to do that. It's awful, but it's a summer job. It's not a career learning opportunity, which is really what I'm trying to develop. So nothing for this year, maybe nothing for 2014, but my goal is by 2015 to start to have some plans in place to try to utilize interns in a good way that'd be beneficial for Atlas and beneficial for the internee or the student.
I saw a business in Columbus that I actually thought about would be a good idea to maybe start your own. It's not an original idea, but it's one like it is. It's called D1 Athletics.
Okay.
It's a training facility for athletes trying to make it to college or that just graduated college, trying to make it to the pros, to just get them ready for whatever they're going to do, whatever they're going to test in. It's almost like the company that we saw at the business summit that did the interview process, except it's for athletes. When you go to the combine or when you go to tryouts, they prepare you for the certain events that you're going to do there and train you in those aspects, and then obviously you pay them for stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you can do it all the way from kids trying to make it to AAA sports that travel, or kids trying to make it to a certain league or a certain college, and they pay you to just train them in different sports, because I'm a sports management major, and that's my love is sports. So to open a business like that would be real cool, to just work with kids and work with even adults that are trying to recover their career or make it to the next level, and just train them in different aspects.
The great thing about that too is you're selling a dream. Dreams and fears are both easy to sell, and you know, Foster has experience at that, the fear side, working in pharmaceuticals for sure. So, but if you can find a way to sell either of those, there are a lot of kids that have parents that want to invest heavily in their child to do well in athletics. It sounds like a business that you want to be careful about what market you're in. Probably a big enough market to support it in Columbus, Chicago, Dallas, the big markets.
Michigan,
Are you?
Metro Detroit area,
Okay.
so.
Yep, so Oakland County would probably be a good place to look at. She said it's more affluent. You wouldn't want to be downtown Detroit necessarily. But those are things to think about. Like I use it as the gourmet pet store. Gourmet pet stores are great in Chicago. They're awful in Battle Creek or Tiffin. But it's not a bad concept, but if it's in the right market, it'll work. If it's in the wrong market, it won't. If it's underfunded, it won't work either. So sounds like a great idea. Just putting a pen to paper and executing it then, too.
How long does it take for her, what was her name again?
Sarah?
Sarah, to create a website?
It depends on how fast you want it, but she can do it in as quick as 5 days, and then, she'll do the first round within a week or two, and then after that, it kind of, you go back and forth between a few revision phases, and then she'll launch it.
So what's the charge on that?
Her website her pricing is really interesting. She does package pricing with then add-ons. Yep, so her cheapest website is $750, and then she's got all these add-ons that you can add on along the way. Most of her clients spend between $1,000 and $1,500. Just depends on what they want, but she works with small companies, that only have a few $100,000 in sales, so they can afford a $750 website, and they don't need,
Yeah, like a simple website.
Yeah, and they don't need huge search engine optimization for another $500. So they don't pay for it, they don't get it, and they don't pay for it, so they keeps the cost low. But for a big company, like she works with other beer distributors because she has knowledge, so she has industry knowledge. Those are thousands of dollars because they want a bigger website with more information. The smarter ones, in my opinion, do Google do Google stuff and make sure that search engine. When we built ours, we're a business, if you get on our website, that works in a small area. We're geographically confined to that area by our supplier contract, not by ourselves. We confined ourselves to that area on purpose. So we do business just in Michigan. We get over 400 hits every month. There's no reason for us to get that many hits.
What if someone in Florida wanted to use your website?
Of course.
Use your Sarah's pretty much knowledge to making a website. Would they be like video chatting to how?
Yeah. Yep. She'll do Skype. She'll do was it FaceTime?
Because my mom wanted to create a website, but it was just like a small solution in the beauty industry.
Yeah.
She has a bunch of little beauty supplies that she sells, but she does it within her store.
Okay.
And she told me like to make her own website. That's
And-
it's time consuming. I want to try it myself, but if she can give a good rate, I would definitely love to.
Yeah,
get Sarah's name.
for sure. We can do that when we're all done. It's very easy for her to complete that kind of task.
And something like that's exactly easier for my mom because she's kind of like the old generation. She knows how
Yeah.
to do an iPhone and everything. She's very good with technology, so she learned very quick.
Yeah. Sarah's got a client in Marshall, and this is like a great story to tell just because the business in general. So husband and wife team, and they wanted to make a antique-looking wheelbarrow for their garden to put flowers in it. But they couldn't find the metal wheels and the axle. They had the plans, they had the wood that they wanted to use, they understood how to build it. So of course they found a need that they thought that they had, and they said, well, maybe other people need it. And they build now these metal wheels and axles, and they sell the plans and the metal wheels and axles on a website. They've never done online sales until they met Sarah. And they're like 65 or 70 years old, which is bad to stereotype that they don't know computers, but she has said that I'm not a very strong computer person. The first day Sarah launched her website, she booked and completed 3 orders and never asked Sarah a question, and has had only 1 or 2 other problems since then. So the ability for the easy use of her websites and also the customer just be able to understand is very, very good in her way she does it. She's
So time-consuming, time is a problem too.
Yeah, yep.
You know, so
And a lot of the times you guys are going to have to understand this as you go through life of Sarah is exchanging time for dollars, and there's only so long that she's going to be willing to do that. So she's going to be finding a way to have somebody else do it for her, create a system that she can make revenue and profit without having to be in the office, so that when we go to London or when we go on a business trip, she's still making money. Personal trainers have this problem too. Doctors have this problem. The doctor can't make money if they're not in the office. So finding those streams to make revenue through your job, especially your company that you run, is going to be really important. And try to think more too than just starting a company that's just going to support you. You want to try to develop and grow an asset that has a value that you can sell. And if you can't necessarily sell the value, maybe you can sell your skill on the side, or you can sell your knowledge on the side. So maybe like a carpenter probably doesn't have a really good business to sell because it's his work, you know, it's his knowledge, but and if he leaves, the profit or the basically intellectual property of that carpenter company might not be as strong, but throughout his life, he can sell that knowledge some way, shape, or form on the internet now.
Does Sarah do maintenance then? If she develops a website, does she offer add-on maintenance services, or is that?
She does that kind of as a la carte thing. She hasn't really developed a way to standardize that practice yet. We want to, because we think it's a good revenue generating tool that will help support an employee, and then the profit will still come from the new websites and the new systems. But she's got a couple different pricing models that she wants to play with over time, and this is a really learning phase. We're taking lots of notes, doing lots of research with the customers of what they like, what they don't like, and making sure that we're developing the best way to present the websites to the client, and then the best way for the company to make money without seeming like a normal greedy developer.
Yeah, but what was it, 4 years ago, InBev bought Anheuser-Busch?
Yeah, yep.
Could you comment on how that affected your business? And we talk a lot about global in our
Yeah,
business, and this
yep.
is a classic example.
It is.
The largest brewer in the world, you know, being purchased by a Belgian company.
Yeah, so
Comment how that's influenced your business.
yeah, so I'll just give you guys a little bit of background. The Bush family and why this all really happened is the Bush family was a classic Southern family, very strong, but for lack of a better term, very arrogant and ignorant at the same time too. They didn't understand how the world was changing around them and continued to believe that the world centered around America and that their business centered around America. So what actually happened was these other big multinational brewing conglomerates got bigger. When they got bought, they were the 3rd largest brewer in the world. And InBev had come from nowhere. They actually started as a Pepsi bottler in Brazil and grew into the brewing industry through an acquisition of Ambev, and then that whole system became known as Ambev. Then they bought a brewer, Interbrew, in Europe, then became InBev. They developed was it the Japanese that came over and started working with Ford to understand how they made cars? That's what Toyota did, right? Way back in the day. So then that's what.
Depends on what period of history you're talking
Yeah,
about.
but then that's what InBev did, is they started kicking the tires with AB and bought them 3 years later after they started importing goods for them, or importing the European beers that they make for them. And it came down to a company management not understanding that the rest of the world was growing faster, and then they needed to be siphoning profits from the American profitable company, cashing in those profits to grow them in a different way. And that's what we're doing at Atlas. We're siphoning profits off of Anheuser-Busch, putting them into these new brands so that they can grow. The big things that have changed, to really get to your question, their whole management style is actually probably closer to mine, even though I don't like the way they present it. They're very focused on results. They want performance, and they want full focus on their business. The thing I have with it is that we focus on their business 99% of the time, 99% of the time, and all they do is get hung up on that 2%. That's all they can focus on, is that 2% that we're not spending time on them. And it's very frustrating for me, because if we're delegating most of our time to making your business grow, and we're doing that now, and we're beating, they have KPIs, key performance indicators for us. We beat our KPI on volume last year by like 2%. We still were down 1%, but they wanted us to be down 3 or better, and we were only down 1. So, but they're still pissed off. So what else can I share about the relationship? What else can I share about the?
What about your product offering? Having access to all the hundreds of InBev products, has that helped you or hurt you or distracted you? Or?
It hasn't distracted us, and in Michigan is a strong franchise state. It's kind of a law thing now. So when we sign a contract with a brewer, it's a life contract without option for divorce. So when the InBev stuff was already contracted through other distributors, so we have to go out and buy those distribution rights. And we can purchase them, and sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. I wrote $1 million unsolicited offer to one of them and never got a phone call back. So some people just don't care. So the offerings, when we can get them, we've got 3 of them in-house now. They work, and they're very good. But kind of the market, what they're doing is, a lot of these houses also have Heineken, and they're more Heineken house than they are InBev, or want to make AB happy, because a lot of the Heineken people are also Miller. So they would prefer to hold on to Stella Artois, because Stella directly competes with Heineken, and they would rather suppress the volume and suppress the brand inside their portfolio to grow Heineken and the partner that they want to have, so they won't sell it to us. But we bought 2,000 cases worth of volume at the end of last year that was Stella and Rolling Rock and Boddington's. We've already sold 600 cases of Stella. They were suppressing Stella on purpose. And Heineken sales are suffering in the market because of that. So that's kind of the law and purchase problems we run into. But the things that AB have been doing great is Premium Plus, so Bud Light Platinum. Everybody drank that or had that. Bud Black Crown. Tried that, maybe, maybe not. Strawberryta, Limerita. Tried that, yeah. Somebody likes it. So it's okay, I like it too. So those packages are premium packages, so everybody makes more money on them, from the brewer to the retailer. They're still great turning packages. Limerita is kind of a sleeper. I mean, who knew where that came from? That was an impressive product. And Strawberryta, we just launched Strawberryta last week nationwide, or on Monday nationwide. That is going to be monstrous too. Budweiser Black Crown is really targeted at our generation. How many people have actually had a Budweiser? Raise your hand. Not many people have actually tried Budweiser. So what they're trying to do with Bud Black Crown is get you to try something from Budweiser, because it has a taste profile that fits within what we like to drink more. It's more alcohol, so you get more bang for your buck, and it's a little bit sweeter. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Bud Light Platinum is the exact same way. They're just trying to develop a mega brand strategy so that they can keep people involved and keep our generation, the biggest generation, involved with Bud Light and not lose them to the craft.
So is Budweiser, regular Budweiser and Bud Light, Light still the top sellers?
Bud Light is huge. That's by far and above the biggest. Bud Light or Budweiser's number 3 now, behind Coors Light. But Bud Light is bigger than Miller Lite and Coors Light combined.
I just meant out of AB by itself, is
Oh yeah.
Bud and Bud Light still the top sellers above
Yeah.
Platinum and
Yep.
Bud Light Lime and things like that?
At one point in time last summer, when they look at it as a mega brand strategy now, so if you take the whole mega brand of Bud Light, which includes, Bud Light Lime, Bud Light, Lime-A-Rita, Strawberry-Ta, now Strawberry-Ta, and Bud Light Platinum, 1 out of every 4 beers we drank in this country was a Bud Light, had a Bud Light logo on it. That's amazing. When they have a 48% market share and a quarter of the beer market is just Bud Light by itself, it's huge. That's their horse.
Do you think that the allegations of watering down of products have any legs?
No, I don't. They, from a PR, the damage has been done. That's the unfortunate thing with the system and our legal system is the watering down of Budweiser, that damage has been done. Whether the court case is won or lost, the media won't ever talk about that. AB has done, in my opinion, the best job they could have done. They've gone into, management of, they did a 1-page ad in 10 of the biggest newspapers that showed a can of their drinking water that they actually donate. They donate canned water to any relief. Like when Katrina happened, they sent truckloads and truckloads of canned water. And they said the people must have been testing these because they're full of water. So it's kind of an entertainment and a funny thing. So they're managing like that. Anybody who wants to do a test and contacts them that says, I would like to do an on-air test or a personal test, who's a journalist, who's a consumer, who's a distributor, who's a TV person, they'll pay for the test, they'll send you the equipment, show you how to do it, and do it right there with you. The other really tough thing about the law, or the law itself and how to win the battle from the people who are suing, beer is a food. It changes every time you make it, every time you do something with it. So, and the brewing process goes through, you actually brew beer to a higher alcohol content, and then you do blend it back down to where it's supposed to be. And the TTB, which oversees all of us alcohol people, whether we're distributors, retailers, or brewers or distillers, they have a fluctuation process that you're able to stay within a few decimal points of that 5% for Budweiser. So there's also some wiggle room inside that too. I think that it's bogus, and I understand their brewing processes really well, and they don't have, as far as I know, most of the brewmasters, if not all the brewmasters, have some kind of engineering background, chemical, bio, electrical, anybody. Industrial engineers are brewing beer for them too. So they want people that understand the technical mindset of how to brew beer. To make something, make a food product at 12 different plants across the country and even more across the world and have it be exactly the same all the way across the United States, that's science. So for somebody to have an allegation that their beer is watered down, I think is bogus, personally. And I believe what they're saying too, and I don't believe everything they say, so they've got me sold, and I'm probably one of the toughest guys in the room to sell.
We'll just close it on this last question. What experience at Tiffin do you feel had the biggest impact on where you are today?
Probably the interaction with professors and the students, the communication that I built. I don't sit down and every day manage a sale or manage an interaction with a customer. I do it from an office, unfortunately. I get out in the field a lot, but I can't do it every day. And the ability to understand how to delegate and that kind of experience and communicate, it was kind of like an all-encompassing experience in the business school here that really helped me learn. I forgot the guy's name. He was one of the CEOs at Walmart, and he said that, makes a lot of sense. He said that you can't, Walmart's too big of an organization to manage. You can only hope to lead. And it's this giant amoeba that you try to just push in a positive direction through your strategy. And he said he often felt like, for I am their leader and those are my people, and I must catch up. And that they're moving faster than he can. And I'm actually trying to build a workforce that works faster than I do, because I can't do everything for everybody. So when people call me and ask questions, hey Bud, we've got this wine sampling and they want to add 3 new wines to the list, which means we have to sample, we have to give them 9 more bottles of wine for free. Should we do that? I don't know. What do you think? What do you mean? Well, are we going to sell more wine? Yeah, we'll probably sell 5 or 10 more cases. Well, there's your answer then. We're going to cover our costs in the 3 bottles. We're going to still make profit. We're going to introduce wine that hopefully people go back to and buy over and over again. I asked our NA brand manager, she wants to bring in a bottle of water. Bottled water is now the biggest package sale beverage in the planet, but it's a fragmented market that only cares about cost for the most part. Unless you're buying Fiji and you want to pay whatever, $5 a liter it is for Fiji, more power to you, but people in Battle Creek don't. So we've never had any success with water before, and she finally thinks she found one that she wants to bring in. So my question was, what would you do if you owned Atlas Beverage? Well, I don't know. And she kind of laughed, and I said, well, why are you laughing? She said, well, I would never own Atlas Beverage. I said, no, yeah, you kind of do. You manage it every day. I don't hold your hand every day. Would you bring on this water knowing that you owe the bank $200,000? You've got to make your goal for the week so you can take food home to put it on the table for your daughter JC and buy her flashy light bulb shoes. Would you do it? And she said yes. So we're going to do it. And try to get all of our team members to take ownership and understanding that their own little route, their part of the warehouse, their piece of the business is kind of theirs to run as best as they can. And if we get everybody at Atlas working like that, or if every company in the world gets everybody working like that, running their part of the company as best as they can do, you got amazing things that can happen.
Any other questions? Thank you again.
No problem. Thank you guys.